Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Damari Gold, who's the owner of the Gold Standard Accounting and Tax Incorporated. Damari, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, so as I'm reading the title here, I wonder why you picked the Gold Standard. Oh, I guess maybe that's your last name. So that's a cool little segue into the Gold Standard. Everyone wants the Gold Standard.
Yes, definitely. And also, the funny story behind it is that actually Damari Gold is my artist name. So my favorite color is gold, and that's how the Gold Standard Accounting started.
Awesome.
And then as I've been doing a lot more social media, I decided that I'm going to be changing my name to Damari Gold.
Hey, awesome. That's really good. It's kind of like having like an expert title, like you think about, I am like for me, authority positioning coach, or I'm an authority marketing strategist.
Yeah.
Well, you have to think about, when someone hears, back in the old days, I remember thinking or hearing this, stockbrokers. Well, that kind of has a certain connotation, but if you say that you're a wealth preserver, well, now that, really, tell me about that. So I think having that kind of expert title is so important. So give us a little background on yourself and your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a first-generation American, and growing up, it wasn't like something that I knew about taxation and all of these things. So it took me some time to really get to a position where I knew that I wanted to go into tax accounting. And I started as a bookkeeper, accounting, doing different accounting jobs, and then pursued my education. I have a master's degree in accounting and finance, and I'm an authorized representative for the IRS. So basically I can do tax preparation and also audit representation. And getting to here was a long journey. I mean, I was doing the straddling, like working my 9 to 5 and building clients on the side for about 10 years. And until 2020, actually, I decided to rip the Band-Aid and finally just go full time on my own.
Okay, so now I hear that kind of story a lot where it's like, hey, I did a little side hustle until I could go out on my own. But 2020 was quite an interesting year to have made the jump into bookkeeping. Normally, that would be the opposite. Like, during 2020 COVID time, I was doing side hustle and I kept my. What about 2020 for you was the time that made you go, okay, now is the time?
Well, with that, I have children, and so staying home and working for a firm and also doing my, working on my clients and all those things, it really brought on just this thought that there's a lot of demand sometimes when you work for someone else.
Yeah.
And my family was a priority to me, and having the flexibility of being able to work when I can or when I'm best productive or most productive is just something that I was in pursuit of more so than just, constantly hustling or just making money. And there is a security blanket that comes with having a 9 to 5. So I know that it's difficult to just say, okay, I'm going to jump ship and do this on my own. But it did help with all of the aids that were out there. And so I was just like, you know what? The time is now.
Yeah.
I just went for it.
Yep, exactly. So give us a little background or a little perspective on the types of clients you work with. When you are bringing on a new client, what typically are their needs?
A lot of times it's just the angst of getting ready for tax time and knowing what is tax deductible to them, how to best prepare. Most of the time people just feel like they're all over the place, that they don't know really where to start. And it's common, and you're not like, if somebody in your audience is feeling that way, it's very common, especially when you first start a business. And in 2020, I mean, I'm sure this is something you've seen. A lot of people started businesses, started side hustles, started contracted work, and doing work from home or just side gig like, let's say Instacart or the other DoorDash and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And all of these
Yeah,
are
yeah.
contracted services. So what happens is that you're entering into a whole new area of taxation that nobody prepares you for. There's not a class you can take that says, okay, for your specific industry or for what you specifically do, this is how you have to get ready. And so that is a need that we're fulfilling, is really like young people and people leaving, even older millennials, leaving their regular jobs and starting businesses and working independently. So these are the things that we are educating people on and helping them and guiding them into having a smoother tax time and feeling a little bit more comfortable and confident about what they're doing.
So it's kind of like I was talking to someone recently that helps military veterans before they leave the military to transition into civilian life. And also I work with a lot of financial professionals that, talk about retirement. Well, in both of those cases, it's smartest to plan well ahead, many months for the military transition, many years ahead of retirement. So when you're talking about preparing for tax time, it's not just like the week before, throw the receipts in the shoebox. It's a little bit more, consistent throughout the year. So what are some of the top things that you recommend to your clients to be doing to prepare to make it really smooth?
Yes, definitely. So right now, if you haven't done so already, is if you started a business, is to keep track of your financials. So how much income you had coming in, any expenses that you incurred during the year for your business. I'm telling you, it is best for you to start doing it right now if you haven't done it for the year, because what happens is you'll forget. People forget what they did last week, so they're going to forget what they paid for in January. So the best thing you could do is go through your bank statements, credit card statements, anything that you spent money on in order to be a business owner, in order to start a business. Those are fees that are potentially tax deductible to you. Now, it's best that you have more of the information than less, because your tax preparer can ultimately guide you, or they should guide you, as to what would be a tax deduction for you or your specific industry. So getting all of these things lined up and written down or on an Excel spreadsheet or something simple is your best bet. Tracking what that is on a monthly basis so that you know exactly what you spent each and every month leading up to tax time or the end of the year. And then also with receipts. Most tax accountants don't need your receipts. The receipts are really for your protection in case you ever get audited. So keeping receipts in a shoebox, that's okay. But right now we have to take advantage of all the cloud servers and all of the technology available to us. So be sure to take pictures of your receipts, keep them in some sort of Dropbox or Google Drive, and sort them out by category and the amount that you paid for any given item. And trust me, this will protect you if you ever get audited, because chances are, I'll tell you right now, bank statements are not enough when you get audited. So make sure to keep your receipts and keep good records of what you've spent on your business if you plan on taking losses, because you have to keep that information for up to 7 years.
Yeah. And, as you were mentioning receipts and cloud, I will say that for me, I don't think that I even have one receipt, because everything I do is, well, here, here's this business expense and it's on my credit card. And so I just have all my credit card statements. And I know that through how many years, 2-3 years ago, I got this fun letter in the mail from the IRS, and they're like, hey, we need to come and check things out. And so, it was just grueling, and they're literally, we're sitting in the house for like eight hours a day, for the whole week, and I had stacks and stacks and stacks of all of my everything, right? Statements, personal, professional, business, and ended up with documented every dime down to like $228 or something like that. And they're like, well, hey, if it's under 400, we're good to go. So have a nice day. And it was like, that is when it pays off. I mean, you have to be meticulous, and whether it's receipts, okay, then take pictures and all that, but maybe it's just all of your expenses are able to be tracked, and make sure that you know where they are, because unfortunately, paper is not reliable. I mean, it just isn't.
Yeah. Also the receipts fade, and something that a lot of people don't think about, because you can use a statement, but let's say you buy something for your business at Target or Best Buy. You can purchase things personally for yourself at those places. That's why the statement isn't necessarily a full, let's say, like a full coverage of your expense.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, I'm sure onesie, twosie, like, oh, here's this thing from, Target because I knew I had to get paper. If it was, massive amounts of those or large numbers, okay, maybe that's a red flag, but maybe onesie, twosie. But that's a really good thing to keep in mind. What are some best practices that would, I know you say save you from an audit, but how about this? If an audit comes up, what are some best practices to make sure that you'll get through it with, flying colors?
Organization is the biggest thing, and also hire someone that can represent you or that knows what they're doing, because a lot of times when people get IRS notices, they freak out and then they're just like, can I just pay to make it go away? And normally that is something that people just don't want to deal with the IRS, or they feel like they're going to be in the wrong. But you have to see that this is an automated system. It's an algorithm, and really it just picks you for whatever reason. If you have organization, and if you have your documents in line, like you said, I provided my statements, or maybe you provided other documentation, supporting documentation, and you have everything in a nice, neat folder or portfolio that you're showing, they won't question it anymore. They'll just say, okay, fine, like it's not worth their time. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is get yourself organized prior to your tax year, because listen, the years just accumulate, the months just accumulate, and if you have to go back 3 years to find stuff, it can be very difficult and stressful. So that's the best thing that you can do for yourself.
I feel like that's almost like a life principle that has business application in this respect. If you are just all over the place, and then once in a while you've got to go and get everything organized and cleaned up, it'll just never happen the right way. But if you get organized, it's not hard to maintain. And see, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, you know what I encourage people? I call them CFO days, very popular online CEO days. Like, have a CFO day, sit down for 2 hours, schedule it. Put down, 1 hour, 2 hours on a Friday or whatever day you want to do, and have your financial day where you're tracking your receipts, you're looking at your finances, whether it be personal or business, and you get it organized for that month or that period in time. Then that way it doesn't get away from you, and then you're having to do it all at the end of the year, or even, for years later, because that's just going to get overwhelming, and you're not going to want to do it.
And if you can get it dialed in so well so that those CFO days, let's say once a month or once every other week or whatever the time frame is, it's not some long grueling process. It's like, okay, I can tweak this, and it's like keeping the plate spinning on a stick. You just tap, tap, tap. Okay, that's cool. And then you don't dread it, and it's not like a whole day. And it's something where someone like yourself, you could guide a business owner to say, here's some best practices to make sure that everything's organized well, and here's some tools, and here's some automations, or here's some whatever the case is. And it's like, okay, you're using Excel, that's wonderful, but if you did this, it would just make things go so much easier. And I think that's a big thing that people don't take advantage of.
Yeah. No, definitely. They should, just to give them peace of mind. Trust me, you want that peace of mind.
Yes. So what are some of the pitfalls that you see people make when they like we were talking about side hustle, like starting out? I would venture to say that engaging with someone like yourself might be put off longer than what it should. So what are some other mistakes that that you're seeing that your entrepreneurs make that people can maybe overcome?
Yeah, a lot of it is just the misinformation, or talking to people that are not tax accountants, having somebody else's opinion. Oh, I heard that you could take this type of deduction, when you haven't talked to a tax accountant. And that is the first biggest thing, because there's times where I hear people say oh, I heard that I can deduct all of my meals. Well, no, there's guidelines as to how you can deduct 100% of a meal as a business expense, but not every meal is tax deductible as a business expense. So there's guidelines that need to be met in order to be able to do that. But again, there's so much wrong information or just general information that people sometimes take that as Bible, and it's not. And so you have to be very cautious about what guidelines or what things you're thinking are allowable to you, or how to conduct a business that isn't. And then that's one. And then two is understanding that how tax works when you're doing contracted work or self-employment work. Because many people, what ends up happening is that when they go to do their tax return, they're not paying taxes throughout the year, so they get a big surprise tax bill.
Yeah.
And if you don't like surprises, I sure don't. So if you don't like surprises, then my suggestion is definitely talk to a tax accountant beforehand, and get yourself just some more knowledge and better prepared for that time.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point, because, if you don't like something in your life, you hear these life coaches talking about, take responsibility, because it is you. You did it. You caused it. You allowed it. Whether it's like a causing or you allowed it. But if it does crop up, like that example, like, I owe more money than I need. And that's happened to me in years past. I'm like, oh my word, are you kidding me? Well, what did I do? Well, you handle it. And then you go, how do I prevent it? Well, what I need to do is, and you then put things in place so that and then you as the business owner, you're good at what you do, but you need someone like yourself to come in and go, okay, let me come alongside you. Let me be your guide. I will show you now. Let's mitigate this and lessen that and make sure that all of these things are in place. And I think that's a huge, huge lesson that people need to realize, whatever it is, whether it's financial or personal. If something happened in your life and you didn't like it, what can be done to prevent it from coming up again?
Yes, definitely. And that is all just preparation. A common misconception is that tax planning is only for business owners or people that make a lot of money. No, tax planning is for people that started side hustles, for people that have a 9-to-5 but find themselves owing every year and they don't know why. Or, really discovering, like, how do I close this tax liability gap between myself and what I owe? And getting yourself, of course, again, best prepared for that time so that you don't have some surprise tax bill. So it's really important to know those things. The tax planning can come for people at any time. And if you're just unsure, always talk to a tax accountant first. Yep.
Love it. Well, hey, let's wrap up with one last point, which is, I know, near and dear to your heart, which is, hey, how do you teach your kids about the fundamentals of money? Because there's some things that they need to learn to make sure that they put best practices into place for whatever they do in their lives.
Yeah, definitely. With the kids, it's like teaching them what, like, tax rate, retirement, how to save when they get money, what exactly to do with it, I guess. It's one of those things that I think it's definitely an ongoing educational practice that you have to implement in your children, because I don't know about you, but like for me, it wasn't like something that you get taught, right? It isn't something that we talk about other than either lack of, or having to pay bills, or stressing out about it, or what is money equal, like survival, or just being able to pay bills, right? So understanding that our kids aren't going to have that perception just yet, but we can implement or continue to reiterate these things as they grow up. Like, okay, guys, so I got some money and, 15% goes here, 10% goes here, and then what do we have left over, right?
Yeah.
And so teaching them how the world works. Don't be scared to teach them these things. Do it. They might not fully understand it, but at some point they will, just like you did, just like the rest of us. But if you implement those things now, then they might have a better understanding as they get older.
And I would even say this too, to model it, not just teach them and tell them, but to live it and model it, because then you're walking your talk. And I know for me, I was taught many things about money and credit cards and okay. And then I went out and made mistakes. And so I think that what you need to realize is if you teach them the right way and they still sidestep a little bit and make a mistake, they'll come back because you gave them the right foundation.
That's right, exactly. And it's so true. That's very, very true. Because sometimes some kids have to learn by doing themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that makes
Well,
the case.
Damari, what's the best way that an entrepreneur, business owner that is interested in learning more about what you do, how can they reach out and connect with you and then learn a little bit more about your practice?
Yeah, definitely. If you guys need help with tax and tax planning, you can email us at info@tgsaccounting.com. So the Gold Standard Accounting, just the initials, TGS. And what else? Let's see. You can go to my website is damarigold.com as well if you're interested in any other subjects when it comes to personal finances or taxation for business.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a pleasure talking with you and learning your approach to business.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.